Chemistry. I am your course facilitator, Nihad Koni. This is session 4 of Unit 4. This session will take you through the models of curriculum evaluation. Let's go on. By the end of this session, you should be able to 1. Explain the experimental, goal-oriented, decision-focused, user-oriented, and responsive models of curriculum evaluation. And 2. Explain at least one merit of each of the above curriculum evaluation models. Which models are available for curriculum evaluation? According to Stetcher and Davis, there are 5, and they are 1. The experimental. Secondly, the goal-oriented. 3rd, the decision-focused. 4, the user-oriented. And 5, the responsive model. These are the models of curriculum evaluation. Let us delve into each of them. First, starting with the experimental. The experimental model. In this model, the principles of experimental science are applied in the evaluation of educational phenomena or of the curriculum. In this type of model, the curriculum evaluator tries to find out about the effects of particular programs. How do he do this? He does this by controlling extraneous variables and isolating the impact due to the program that is introduced. The evaluator who uses the model of experimental applies the scientific method as much as possible and also conducts the evaluation in more or less the same way that a scientist approaches a research study. How does a scientist approach a research study? I hope you remember the scientific method and the steps involved in finding it. That is how an experimental evaluator will go about it. He will look at the variables that are outside, the extraneous variables that is controlling the effect of the program, and that is where he will evaluate. And so, the experimental model entails the following. First, introducing an intervention, then setting up a control situation in which some subjects will receive the treatment, while others do not receive that treatment. And then you compare the performance of those that have received the treatment to those that did not receive the treatment. That's your controlled and experimental groups, and you determine the impact of the intervention that have been introduced. The strongest point of this design is that it is made for an objective analysis of the effects of the program, and also it enables generalizations to be made. Thus, it meets the requirements for credible findings that are needed by administrators and decision makers to be able to generalize the conclusions on a broader view. The goal-oriented model uses program-specific goals and objectives as the criteria for determining success. This evaluation involves identifying, clarifying, and stating the purposes of an educational activity, and then assessing the extent to which the purposes have been achieved or not. According to Watson and Sanders, information that is gained from this type of model could be used to reformulate the purposes of the activity itself, or the assessment procedures and devices that are used to determine the achievement of purposes. This approach makes it necessary for program developers to clarify the relationship between the specific activities or services that are offered and the particular results or outcomes that are to be achieved. And so when you are using this model, you are looking for the purposes of what this educational method is saying, and then checking whether the purpose has been achieved or not. So you are clarifying relationships between outcomes and activities, or outcomes and services. Because the goal-oriented model seeks to check the relationship between objectives and outcomes, it involves the use of most accurate statistical analysis to clearly show this correlation. Also, it is very simple. That is its greatest strength, its simplicity. It's easy to understand, easy to follow, easy to implement, and the information that it produces have also been agreed by educators that it is relevant for the educational mission. Also, it has a considerable face validity. This is because trying to hold the program designers accountable for what they say the program will do or will accomplish is a good exercise. And so it has a kind of validity which is sufficient enough. The goal-oriented model also helps to delineate logical relationship between objectives and activities, and thereby emphasize elements that are important to the attainment of program objectives. It's able to show that there is no relationship between these areas, and so they might not be important or relevant for the attainment of some objectives in the curriculum or educational system. Also, the goal-oriented model has led to a great deal of improvement in the techniques for measuring educational outcomes. The decision-focused model. This approach concerns itself with providing information to aid decision-making in respect of curriculum planning, curriculum design, and curriculum implementation. The assumption to this approach is the belief that evaluation is worthwhile only if its results will affect future actions. Evaluation activities are therefore supposed to be planned to coincide with the various phases of curriculum planning and implementation, where there are needs for information for improving decision making. Again, evaluation processes required to be made flexible enough to tally with the needed changes and adjustments in curriculum planning and implementation. Because the underlying assumption is that evaluation should be worthwhile to be able to affect future actions, then this evaluation process is quite flexible to make way for changes in future or for making adjustments which will help in future plans. The evaluator must in this case understand the curriculum development and implementation cycle and also be prepared to provide different kinds of information keyed to specific decision points during the various stages. Apart from the evaluator helping to select alternative approaches to deal with a situation, the decision-focused evaluator is also supposed to draw attention to alternatives that even the decision maker might not perceive. One important feature of this model is that it helps the evaluator to also present alternative approaches for dealing with the situation that the designer might not even look out for. So it is about aiding decision making, which will affect future actions, making sure that the future of the curriculum is better than its present. The evaluation is used to make decisions for the future of the curriculum. The greatest advantage of this decision-focused model is that it helps to focus an evaluation study by paying attention to specific information needs of the curriculum planning and implementation process. This decision-focused focused evaluation gives information to the curriculum planners and the implementers because it seeks to focus on areas that these groups of people need much information on to be able to plan and implement the curriculum very well. It also helps to prevent blind gathering of information that is not relevant to the key issues or questions at hand. By attending directly to the information needs of people supposed to use evaluation, this approach addressed one of the biggest criticisms of evaluation in the 1950s, that it did not provide useful information. In the 1950s, there was great criticism for evaluation that the information that comes out of evaluation are not useful. But the decision-focused model fought these criticisms and showed that it helps to gather information that are relevant for decision-making in education. To the user-oriented model, they pay attention to factors that are likely to affect the utility of evaluation findings, including human elements like the style, the rapport, and the sensitivity. This user-oriented model came to being or was built because of the need to tailor evaluations to the specification of the program designers and also for the implementers who are using the evaluation findings in their work. The user-oriented evaluators enhance their utilization of evaluation findings by involving themselves with representatives of the user agencies and the groups in the activities of the team of workers that are supposed to frame the evaluation. They also include themselves in the team's work of identifying important questions, of selecting the measurement strategies, of reviewing the preliminary results, and also making recommendations for action. The most obvious merits that you might think of is that it makes for increased commitment to and use of the evaluation findings in decision making. This because of the involvement of the user agencies and groups in the evaluation process. Again, the user-oriented evaluation take the real problems and circumstances of the potential users of the evaluation into consideration, and therefore they yield findings that are relevant to the needs and purposes of such users. And so this model focuses on the one who is going to use the model, the users. And so it looks at putting them into the scene and then finding out what are the problems the potential users may find, and then help to remedy such problems. The next is the responsive model. This model operates on the basis that the most authentic evaluation is one that is based on diverse perspectives of people who have a stake in the program that is being implemented. The advantage associated with the responsive evaluation is the fact that it projects the human element by directing attention of evaluators to the needs of the client or the stakeholders in a given evaluation situation. In this regard, responsive evaluators do not base their conclusions on the impressions of one person or even a group of persons, but then they base it on the multiple perspectives of all the various people that are affected by the evaluation. Secondly, the responsive model is highly sensitive to the multiple points of view of various individuals and groups and has the capacity to accommodate ambiguous or poorly focused concerns. Indeed, responsive evaluators can operate where there are differences between the concerns of different groups because they can embody their conflicting points of views into a meaningful way. A few questions to try our hands on. 1. Explain briefly the flow following curriculum evaluation models: experimental, the goal-oriented, decision-focused, the user-oriented, and the responsive model. And 2, state one merit of each of the above curriculum evaluation models. We have come to the end of this session. In this session, we learned about the 5 approaches of the curriculum evaluator. We looked at that of the experimental, that uses the scientific method, the goal-oriented, the decision-focused, the user-oriented, and also the responsive model. Thank you, and I will see you in our next session. Bye.